Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from Delta CX, and hi, we're a full service CX and UX agency and consultancy. We do projects, training, and consulting. So let me know if you need some help. And welcome to episode 158, which is Should Product Managers Do UX Work? And today we'll be reading through my latest Medium article on that topic. Check the description for the link to the Medium article, and of course discussing it. So, excuse me, I was just coughing a lot. So if you have a question or an opinion, if you're here live, get it in the chat. I'll be watching the chat. If you're watching this video later, comment on the YouTube video. I am always happy to respond to questions and stuff personally. And of course, as always, thank you to everybody who has been pressing the join button over on YouTube. Totally optional, but always appreciated. People are giving $3 to $10 per month to support the channel, which keeps me in streaming software and delicious chocolate chips, which I definitely ate today. Okay, so hello, and I don't know why things are coming up as message deleted, but I see your message. Sorry about that. Alrighty, so let's take a look at the article. It is a long article. I wrote it a week or so ago, and I think it's 4,000 words. So it is going to be one of my longer articles, but keep those comments and questions coming, and I will speak to them at some natural breaks. Right. Speak to these at some natural breaks in the content. Alrighty, so there we go. Here's the chat room, the optional tip jar, my screen, and me. Wearing a shirt off of my don't wear in front of the green screen pile, so hopefully I'm not totally see-through, but I like to joke about wanting to be transparent. All right. Okay, so this again is a Medium article, easy to Google or check the description for the URL, and it's from July 11th, 2022, and it's called Should Product Managers Do User Experience, Research, or Design? Excuse me, I had a coughing fit right before the show. Okay, let's do it. Here we go. Authors and trainers from product management are increasingly pushing the idea that PMs should be doing UX research and/or design. Let's think critically about the most common reasons we hear for this. Towards the end of the article, I'll ask the critical thinking question of why PMs might be trying to bring UX work into their role. Note, for those of you looking at the screen, since this won't sound any different, I'm using capital P product for the domain, department, and practice. I'm using lowercase p product for the thing your company builds and uses internally or tries to sell to others. Also note, since this advice tends to be about PMs running research, at least most of this article, I'm focusing a bit more on research, but most of the points I'm making hold true for design as well. And before we get into common reasons given for PMs to do UX work, let's look at some of the risks that this can create, which include, but are not limited to, risks that the work is poorly done. If we want world-class 5 stars out of 5 UX work, then we want UX specialists doing what they do best. We don't want randoms trying out other specialties work because it looks fun or easy. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, thank you for the super chat. Oh wow, yes, please do share the article with everybody you can think of. The article is on Medium, and you'll also be able to share this video once it's done, but I keep going back to my coughing fit. So I was talking about the risks that the work is done poorly, and we don't want people trying out other specialties work because it looks fun or easy. Specialists make difficult, complex work look easy. And if we don't want world-class 5-star work, why not? Risks that outcomes are poor. Customers might not be happy with the solution we deliver. This will tax customer support. We might lose business. Our stock price might drop. Morale might suffer. Maybe people quit because they're tired of shipping garbage. Poor outcomes cost us more in marketing, customer acquisition, and customer retention. Risks of working from guesses or assumptions. After working from guesses and assumptions, we often waste time and money having to figure out what we got wrong, design again, test again, develop again, QA again, merge again, release again, etc. Lean reminds us that we're only lean when we deliver the right thing the first time. Lean is against waste. If we are in cycles of wasteful product guesses, we're not lean. And we're probably far from agile because agile is about a lot more than speed. If PMs are coming up with product decisions or solutions, especially based on zero or poor research, this is highly risky. Risks of not meeting our goals or of manipulating metrics to make things look better than they are. Teams not meeting their goals should be held accountable and responsible. I've seen this accountability make some product managers manipulate metrics to make it look like every project they had was a winner in some measurable dimension or another. Many of these projects were actually failures, and some were later removed from the live product. Risks around PM headcount and allocation. Who are these PMs who have so much free time that they can do another job's work? Did we hire too many PMs? Are they postponing important work to try UX work? Someone might want to try to take a look at why PMs have so much spare time. Risk of losing workers we claimed we wanted. If PMs start doing UX work, why does the company need UX specialists? That's the lesson leaders and execs might learn, and it might be harder to get the budget to grow the UX department. It might be harder to attract and retain talent that won't want to work in an environment where anybody doing the UX is good enough. Some claim that PMs doing UX work will relieve the problem of not enough UX workers, but we should note that PMs doing UX work might encourage a future with fewer UX workers. Are we fixing a problem or potentially making it worse? All of this should be in our risk registers, retro, and any way that we document or mitigate risks. Now let's take a look at some of the common reasons used for why PMs should do UX research and or design. Common reason. Only having UX researchers do UX research will create a bottleneck that will slow teams down. If you haven't hired enough developers to write the code your project needs, you have a bottleneck. This is often solved by opening up a job and hiring more developers. Otherwise, borrowing devs from another team, not hiring devs, or other solutions that exclude growing the team can mean risk for the project and company. The project might go more slowly, stall, or grind to a halt. Other projects might get delayed or derailed. Another risky solution would be, let's grab someone from outside of engineering and have them write some code, maybe with a little training. If you haven't hired enough UX researchers to do the generative and evaluative research your projects need, you have a bottleneck. This is best solved by hiring. Not hiring UX researchers or grabbing someone from outside UX is risky. By the common reasons logic, if product management becomes a bottleneck, then we should let UX designers do some PM work. Don't hire more PMs, just give the work to someone in QA who has some spare time. Would PMs be excited about this and believe it solves their problems? I've also noticed that all of the writing and training saying that PMs should do UX work seem to imagine the happy path. This goes well. What will we do if we find that PMs do UX work badly? Scrap the work? Tell that person they can't do UX work anymore? Stop UX practitioners' work and try to train PMs more? Let the bad work go and do nothing? Imagine that we're talking about UX research work. The happy path assumes The UX research work was correctly planned, recruited, executed, analyzed, synthesized, and reported. The research was done without bias, leading questions, or wrong questions that ask people to predict what they might like, use, or buy in the future. And the interviewer stayed neutral and didn't use any face, tone of voice, question, or statement that altered how the user behaved or answered. If UX researchers are understaffed and spread thin, the last thing they need right now is to be told to train PMs, oversee PMs doing UX work, fix PMs work, etc. PMs doing UX work isn't a relief, it adds to UX's work. I disagree with Jared Spool's non-solution that once you give non-UX workers a little training on UX, just let them do work without checking it, overseeing it, or fixing it. Jared suggests that you assume the work is good enough, but that creates more risks than our teams should be willing to accept. Therefore, if UX research is a bottleneck, hire more qualified UX researchers. Nearly zero UX practitioners dream of their work being done by people who are often doing it badly. The dream of UX leaders fighting to open more jobs so that UX work is being done well by qualified specialists who went through our assessment and hiring process. This is where I often like to tell the old joke where a rich businessman buys a yacht, a captain's outfit, and a captain's hat. He takes his parents on the boat and brags that he is the captain of his yacht. The father says, "Son, to me, you're a captain. To mama, you're a captain. But to a captain, you're no captain." You might talk to customers, but to a UX researcher, you might not be doing UX research, and your work might not be good enough for our customers, users, and the products and services they expect, if not require. Common reason. PMs must have first-hand knowledge of customers and therefore should be conducting interviews. First-hand knowledge is anything that you saw or experienced directly. Second-hand knowledge is something that you heard or learned from someone else or another source. The common claim here is that if PMs aren't running UX interviews, they won't have first-hand knowledge. The claim often goes on to say that in such cases, the PM will not develop empathy for users. It almost sounds like a threat. Given the definition of first-hand, PMs can still develop first-hand knowledge of users by joining research sessions live as an observer or watching the recordings of those sessions later. Anything the PM notices or hears is information that was gathered firsthand. The questions don't have to come out of the PM's mouth for the PM to have first-hand knowledge. Critical thinking question. If PMs must have first-hand knowledge here, where else will they insist on having first-hand knowledge or experience? Will they say, "Hey, I wasn't part of developing this corporate strategy and now you're just telling it to me? That's second-hand." Will they say, "Hey, you're telling me that our code tested well, but that's second-hand. I will have to test our code myself"? Of course not. Declaring that PMs must have first-hand knowledge, but only in UX, is an attempt to devalue research insights, reports, and presentations because these are second-hand. These are specialized researchers telling you what they saw, heard, and learned. They should be trusted. They made it through our interviewing process. Yet, product managers' days are full of working from second-hand data that they completely trust, rely on, and don't insist on double-checking or getting first-hand. Salespeople report numbers of customers, revenue, adoption of a new product or service, etc. We trust their data. CX and marketing report NPS, survey results, and other satisfaction data. We trust it. Customer support tells us about themes found in calls and tickets. We believe them without needing to answer customer support calls ourselves. UX is special. Suddenly, PMs must have first-hand experiences with this data, or else we create all kinds of claims about how this is something bad we don't want. When I speak about this more deeply with PMs and their managers, I often find that PMs want to run interviews because it seems fun, and they get to ask the questions. Excuse me. When I ask if the PMs also want to plan the research, recruit for it, grueling, rewatch the recordings, analyze what was said and done, synthesize this, do the affinity diagram, find the themes and patterns, etc., I often hear, surprise, that research requires all of this. They just thought they need to come up with a few questions, find a few people, and quickly learn some things. This isn't UX research. This might be marketing or market research, but it's not UX research. It doesn't replace UX research. And since this approach is so minimal, it might produce conclusions that are opposite to what UX researchers find. A generative research study can easily take weeks or longer to do well. If PMs are not spending these same weeks and producing the same high-quality work as specialized researchers, do we still want their reduced and potentially poor research work? An unmoderated testing study can be run quickly, but if it's not planned, recruited, executed, and analyzed correctly, it can be garbage. If PMs are not working at the same level as qualified researchers, do we still want their reduced and potentially poor research work? Consider the risks and possible outcomes. The best vantage point for first-hand knowledge of users is to watch and listen to them while a professional, experienced researcher runs the sessions. But if your researcher, PM, UX, or other role, hasn't written good questions, didn't recruit the right number or types of people, and didn't analyze the data well, this study might be partially or totally garbage. That's risky and wasteful. If PMs are worried about creating empathy, they can start with empathy for professional UX researchers who want the time and headcount to do their jobs well. Empathetic PMs can please support UX getting more budget and headcount so that PMs and UX can each focus on their own specialized work. Quick comment from the chat room. Mitali says, I made similar comments on a post today by a leading famous PM talking about service design but refusing to call it so they could promote their 1-month product management course. Yeah, there's a lot of courses out there that claim if you just do some service design or you make a customer journey map, you're doing great product management or UX or CX. There's a lot more to the article coming. I'm taking a break to read the comments. There's more coming. Kelby says, in a nutshell, PMs should understand the need and want the results of research, but another person, the UX researcher, should perform the research in order to avoid bias. Yes. Okay, here's another common reason that I hear that say that PMs should do UX work, especially research. Raystorm7 says, found a lot of PMs jump in for the eye candy work to basically be talking heads in front of clients, but when it comes to the grind of the actual heads down tangible work, they disappear real quick. Yeah, that's like what I just talked about, where I speak to product managers and their bosses about the whole UX research process, which I'll put up on the screen for a moment. And it's like, hey, did you want to do all of this? Oh, no, we just wanted to ask a few people some questions. Okay, well, that's not UX research. Maybe that's market research. Doesn't replace what we do. So, no. All right, next common reason that I hear a lot, only use researchers as subject matter experts or as a coach to non-UX workers doing UX research. If we agree that a UX researcher is an expert, why would we then want to reduce how they're utilized? We have an expert working with us, and we don't want to let them do what we admit they have expertise in. We want them to only advise or chime in. Underutilization of workers, especially experts, is risky and is one of the types of lean waste. If we can agree that a UX practitioner is an expert in what they do, then we should be letting them do the work in which they are an expert. If they are at the individual contributor level, then that would be the actual research work. Would we hire a senior software engineer, agree that they're an expert, and then restrict them from writing code? Would we call them a subject matter expert and tell them they can only advise teams? One PMs should do research source I saw made it sound like the UX researcher should be assigned to multiple teams, as if they have the time to juggle multiple streams of work and do all those projects well. But the source suggested that we not let them do all of the work those projects need. So what the hell is that? You're on the team, it's your project, but we don't want you doing all of the UX research work, even though you're the only UX researcher on the project? More likely, it's, we put you on more projects than you can handle. We put you in that situation, but now we'll call you a bottleneck. So to solve the bottleneck, we'll take some of the work away from an expert and give it to newbies from outside the UX department. So many of these reasons don't stand up to critical thinking or logic. Again, if you don't want UX to be a bottleneck, hire more of them. Don't keep the department small and then take expert work away from experts for any reason. I think I know who is commenting here, and she says, "Oh my lord, this happened with me. It doesn't work. Run away, people. UXR shouldn't be placed into multiple projects." Okay, the next common reason that I hear as to why PMs should do UX work: we only need professional UX researchers for bigger projects. Again, test your logic here. Are you saying you want an expert on a big project, but for smaller projects, you don't want experts working on them? Is it okay for smaller research projects to potentially be done poorly because we decided that something smaller in size is smaller in importance, consequences, or risk? Every moment and touch point our company creates is a chance to connect with a customer or user or alienate a customer or user. Even things that you decide are small might be important or big to a user. It reminds me of the 2022 freakout over in Miro's forums when Miro removed a double-click feature. Miro claimed it was their research that led them to remove the feature, which makes me wonder who did the research and how. They claimed that they noticed some users double-clicked, which gives you the last shape and color that you created, and then they saw the users remove the shape. Miro believed this meant that people were creating these shapes by mistake, and Miro decided to save people from themselves by removing the ability to double-click to add the same shape and color you last used. Miro evidently didn't predict the backlash from customers who used and liked the double-click feature. They relied on it, and now it was gone. What can Miro users do instead? There's no option in their knowledge-based shortcuts page. It turns out the workaround is to click away from whatever you were doing, so you're not typing in a note or shape, press N on your keyboard, and click your mouse. You'll get the last shape and color you used. When the product team is creating workarounds, that's bad. Workarounds are band-aids, not solutions. I have no idea who from UX was part of this decision, but I tend to see these types of things when UX is excluded, circumvented, or overruled by product or sometimes engineering. I tend to imagine that a qualified UX researcher would have used the right methods to learn if people dropped the shapes by mistake versus just changing their mind or some other behavior. And then I tend to imagine that a qualified UX designer would have created a setting or option for whether double-click does nothing or double-click gives you the shape and color you last used. That would solve all users' problems. I often find that the smaller things that people think anybody can do center around testing ideas, which is typically done by UX researchers. Again, Consider the risks of giving non-experts work that is normally done by experts. Usability testing will help us see where concepts or designs need another round of iterations, or if our designs or ideas are poor solutions and need a complete rethink. Now is not the time to skimp. A wrong decision here can be very costly for a company. Mitali says, Miro, if you're watching this, please bring back double-click. We'll save the world a lot of time and clicks. Agree. Common reason for PMs to do UX work. Product is being held responsible and accountable for product outcomes, so they should do user experience research and or design so they can make sure they like the concepts we'll build. An easy fix here is to make sure that product, UX, and engineering are the triad, 3 voices, or whatever you want to call it. They're equal partners with equal say, and they respect each other's specialties. If the team is responsible and accountable, then it's not all on the product manager. We can then make sure that everybody on the team has the time, resources, and people they need to do world-class work. And if product's neck isn't solely on the line, product shouldn't feel like they have to over-control the product or process to ensure the outcomes they want to see. And it should be the outcomes the team, our triad, wants to see for both users and the business. Kelly says, I once worked with a product manager who waited until I was on vacation before getting the developers to change the page layout and colors to ones he liked better. Oh, that is beautiful. Right. Yes. Let's talk about risk. I hope that went up to managers. Kelby says, the designs I had done had been backed by usability tests and the colors had been carefully planned to be accessible by those with sight color deficiencies. Oh my God. All right, more common reasons that I hear for PMs to do UX work. Famous company democratized research, so we should too. There are 2 definitions of democratizing research. One means to make sure that there is better collaboration during planning, letting other roles watch the sessions, and all of the insights and suggestions are shared with the whole cross-functional team. The other definition of democratization says that everybody gets to do UX research work. UX prefers the first definition, but most people mean and want the second definition. While some companies are allowing anybody to do UX research regardless of their training, experience, talent, skill, or outcomes, some companies are already on the other side of that experiment. They are undemocratizing research. They saw the risks come to life. They saw the poor work being done. They saw the poor outcomes. They saw highly qualified researchers leaving because they didn't want to work in that environment. And they decided to go back to only UX researchers doing UX research work. Bonus tip. Don't fall for all of the webinars and blog posts coming from UX research tools and software that push for democratization. They have a horse in the race. The more people you have doing research, the more licenses, seats, and usage that they sell. Common reason. UX has easy work anybody can do. It's common to hear that UX work is easy. Anybody can design a screen. Anybody can talk to customers. Sure, but few people do these things well. If we care about the quality of work being done at our company, then we want these things done well. I could give you a haircut, but you might not be happy that I did. Would we also say that creating marketing campaigns is easy? Would we say that coding is just words on a screen, so let's let anybody at our company do that? There's one really simple rule to follow here. If you don't qualify for a job in UX research or UX design, you're not doing UX research or design. Your company probably puts UX candidates through 3 to 5 job interviews and a challenge to check their skills and proficiency. We care about how our potential UX staff do their work and what their skills are. These same standards must apply when non-UX roles would like to do UX work. If you do not qualify for a UX job, and especially if you wouldn't make it past UX's first interview, you're not doing UX work. If a PM wouldn't make it through 3 to 5 UX job interviews and a challenge, they shouldn't do UX work. Also, if UX work is being done, I want that person working in the UX department full-time so that they have appropriate work reviews and management. UX isn't a hobby and shouldn't be a non-UX role's part-time thing. Then I've got a graphic on the screen that shows my Who Does CX and UX task slides, which pretty much repeats the points that I just made. So it's a visual, but it's optional. All right, let's start to get to some of my conclusion stuff. Helpful clue. User experience in the task's names tell you who should be working on this. If a PM wanted to do some front-end development, they might notice the word development, realize that's part of the engineering team, and notice that's outside of the product domain. If a PM wanted to work on a marketing campaign, they might notice the word marketing, realize that's marketing's domain, and notice that's outside of product's domain. If a PM wanted to do some UX design or UX research, they might notice the term UX, realize that's part of UX's domain, and understand quickly that that's outside of product's domain. If you just call it research or design without UX, we all still know what this is. If you are researching users, their experiences, needs, preferences, perspectives, tasks, jobs to be done, etc., that's part of UX research. If you're coming up with products, features, fixes, flows, screens, or layouts that you imagine are solutions for our customers or users, or it solves a business problem, that's UX design. And UX should be done by UX. And we're cherry picking. There are plenty of other sources that don't want PMs doing UX research or design. Product Growth Leaders, not sponsors, not sponsored, trains people on product management and does not believe or suggests that PMs do any work. Actually, I spoke to them recently and they sometimes like when PMs talk to users, but they, in general, want UX researchers to do UX research work. But there's no one true God, or everybody says that PMs should do UX work. We tend to choose the trainers that give the message we want to give, but PMs should do UX work isn't the only message out there. Nearly zero UX leaders want this, and some PMs don't want this due to the above-mentioned risks. If Don Norman wrote a book that said UX can do product management work as, when, and how they like, would PMs say, "Whoa, okay, UX gets to do our work how and when they want. It's been decreed. That's that, I guess. Let them do it"? Surely not. Just because there exists a book, website, article, or training that says that PMs can do UX work doesn't mean that teams should choose to disrespect UX specialties. We should be thinking critically about costs, outcomes, morale, quality of work, and more. UX should own and control UX. No other domain, including product, should come in and say, here's how UX works, here's who does the work, here's how it's done, etc. UX isn't telling product how to work, and we'd like the same respect. What about Scrum? Scrum.org, not sponsored, defines product owners as being a bridge between business strategy and product execution. Product owners align the team on that strategy as well as the product vision, product goals, and sprint goals. They identify and track metrics, KPIs, OKRs, and other metrics that show that we're creating value to the customers and users and that the product delivery was successful. Scrum.org also says that the PO discovers techniques to interact with stakeholders, customers, and members of the Scrum team. I would suggest that for customers and users, POs can discover the technique of letting qualified CX and UX researchers deliver insights, pain points, opportunities, and other data. But nothing here says that POs must talk to customers, design the product, or come up with the solution that we'll build. Googling for what the PO does versus what the PM does seems to yield two main camps. One camp says the PM is the PO. The other says that the PM assists the PO, bringing more knowledge and data than the PO might not have, since the PO is more focused on the Scrum team and delivery. Someone in my Delta CX community said that at their job, a product manager is a manager of product owners. And I've got a screenshot from one of my slides, which is really a screenshot from scrum.org showing what they teach a product owner does. Solomon says, lots of statements on the internet, not all valid or indicative of critical thinking, viewer discretion advised. All right, so all of this in the article now leads us to our critical thinking questions about why product managers might want to land grab UX tasks even when they don't have training, experience, skill, or talent in doing UX tasks. Critical thinking question: why would PMs want to bring UX work into their role? No matter what, your company will have data or research it works from, even if those are analytics and some surveys. Your product and features will have a design, even if that's engineers putting things on the screen based on something in a requirements document. Whether or not it's intentional and whether or not it's done by skilled or specialized practitioners, you will have a design. In companies that have nobody in UX, teams used to, or still, do this sort of design. Somebody wrote a document of what this had to do or what elements needed to be on the page. Someone then decided how to put that page together. If the elements were on the page, this passes internal inspection and it's good to go. We did what we wanted to do, the page does things, and we're done. Ship it. Some people miss those days. Some people want to go back to a time when business analysts, engineers, or product owners, product managers designed the product by pre-deciding the features or specifications or by laying out the pages and screens. I've been delivering corporate training where when I talked about the benefits of UX researchers doing research, the leader of the business analysts shouted at me and stormed out of the room. He was angry because at that company, BAs talked to users, and I wanted to take that work away from them and give it to someone else. I told him I'd like to take that work away from anybody doing it poorly, though I'm not sure that was comforting. But there's a bigger issue here that there's a bigger issue here than the people who miss the old days. What is a product manager? What do they do? And if UX were able to do generative research, prioritize the needs and opportunities that we discover, and then map work to those priorities, creating the product roadmap, what does a PM do? If UX considered business goals and strategies in this prioritization, what would we need a PM to do? We saw the definition of a product owner in Scrum. I like that definition because it was a list of important tasks that most other roles won't have time to do or don't want to do. That makes it a good specialty and unique full-time job that doesn't overlap other jobs. So my opinion is that whether you call it a PM or PO, we need the role that scrum.org described above. What if you're the type of PM who believes that they're creative and should be deciding product solutions, or they really want to do research and talk to users? My question to you is, are you in the right job? Shouldn't you get UX education and come work in UX? Critical thinking question. If PMs keep land grabbing UX's work and saying it's part of their job, won't UX practitioners start taking PM's jobs? If PM jobs are looking for UX abilities and a certificate in product management, What stops great UX researchers and designers from getting a product management certificate and taking that job? Is that the future product managers want? I already know UX workers doing this. They figure that if the job mostly wants PMs doing UX work, then perhaps PM is the job to get, providing it's a do the UX type of PM job. If you have a do the UX PM job, who's more likely to get that job? An experienced product manager or an experienced and talented UX practitioner with a nice portfolio of work who got a PM certificate? Productschool.com, not sponsored, they came up first in my Google search, and I'm definitely not going to work with them after I learned more about them, but that's just my opinion. They will certify you as a product manager or a product leader for about $4,500 American. It's 4 hours a week for 8 weeks. Sadly, I can't tell from their website if they teach that PMs do UX work or PMs want to see great UX work done by specialists. Update. I finally got to that part of their website, and they teach PMs to do UX work. They actually also teach them to write some code. Boo. I also heard that General Assembly's product management course tells future PMs that they own UX research, and that General Assembly also tells people in the UX course that UX owns UX research. Wow. Adam says, I'm seriously thinking about getting an Alliance PO certificate. I can still run ISO 9241-210 or 220 human-centered design processes if I rename the thing to product management. Right, in a company that thinks product managers do UX. Because if you get that job, guess what? You do UX, you own UX, you run UX, you can do it how you want, if that's what the product management job says. Okay, so wrapping up the article. Hey, UX just wants to do UX. Digital UX has existed since digital systems existed. As soon as there were user interfaces or ways that people interacted with devices and digital systems, you had UX design, even if you guessed at it or didn't care. For decades, UX just wants to do UX. We just want to research and design. We want to find problems, deeply understand them, and get to root causes. We want to research people, deeply understand them, and see them without bias. We want to design systems, apps, tools, and services for them based on what we know about their needs, contexts, perspectives, tasks, and priorities. That's it. Other roles often want to do what UX does, often without putting in the investment, time, and effort UX professionals did to learn and refine our craft. Those UX researchers you think we don't need and you want to replace, they often have 8,000 or more hours of experience, and many have master's degrees or PhDs. I think this would be fun, or this author said I should do this, doesn't replace the specialized work that educated and skilled people can and should do. If PMs need to redefine their roles, that's for them to figure out. But if their redefinition overlaps what another specialized role is already doing, it's probably the wrong redefinition. At best, it'll cause conflict and disrespect. At worst, piles of risks and losses for our employer. All right, that is that article. Back to me. And we've got a comment that came in from Miralike. Sorry, I'm not pronouncing that very well. The most common reason I've seen is the UX are being overstretched. I've always worked on 2 to 4 teams doing both research and design plus working to improve the UX function. Understaffing equals bottleneck. Yeah, but I debunked that at the beginning of the article. We know UX is a bottleneck. It absolutely is. But we also know other people put us in that situation. They're putting us in that situation if they're not giving us the budget and headcount to hire. They're putting that in that situation if product managers aren't fighting for us to get the budget and to hire. Milky Drop says, I've observed our PMs doing discovery interviews and usability testing, and it was so frustrating. They have such strong biases, ideas, and opinions, which was reflected in how they asked questions. It was very leading and feature-focused. And I don't know how to pronounce your fake name. I don't want to use your real name. Moon says, do you like using our product? Would you like this feature? Yeah, these are some of the biased questions we hear, and we know that the research is being done incorrectly and why it's really risky to base so much. Think of all of imagine what 8, 9, 10 or more engineers get paid to work for how many sprints? Tens of thousands of dollars? More? And we're going to waste that because we asked bad questions in research? Yeah, Solomon says, I find it interesting that no one ever wants to democratize engineering's work, to code or not to code. Now, the funny thing is that flavors of Agile will say that we should decentralize Agile work. And what they usually mean is that they want engineers who are T-shaped. Like, I'm really a developer, but I can do some QA work. Or I'm a QA person, but I could write a little bit of code if I had to. Now, if engineering wants to decentralize or democratize within engineering, go ahead. But we've got nothing to do with that. Nothing yet has been shown to me that shows me that UX should be part of Agile's decentralization or democratization of engineering work. Safe Agile has Principle 9 that says, here's how we know that you can decentralize UX work. But bizarrely, the 3 reasons that they give to decentralize UX work are actually the reasons why you can't decentralize UX work. And so this is obviously just bad pretzel logic. Prince says the other reason why this might be a problem is that companies hire one UX person, researcher or designer, and we're directionless, not just spread thin. In my company, it's a product owner-centric space. Adam says, did you run interviews or any research on what is the persona of PMs towards UX? What is the tasks they take? What is their mental model of the overall product design process? Adam says, oh, they try to democratize engineering work. Think of Codeberry and any other be a front-end developer in 6 months courses with 2 months of theory and 4 months of internship. Yeah, I'm not sure that's necessarily democratizing engineering work, but again, we do know that there are flavors of Agile that call it decentralizing, and they say that they want T-shaped people, which means that if someone is sick or missing or there's a bottleneck, someone else on the team has at least some skills to at least do some work in someone else's area. But in the UX world, that would mean, gee, we really wish that some of our researchers were okay designers in case a researcher had spare time, but a designer was backed up and a researcher could come help them out. But UX never has spare time, so even that model doesn't make sense. Jose says, should a UX team be under product management or the development department? Thanks for your answer. Neither. Ultimately, the best place for UX is as their own branch of the organization. When we're under product, we're typically over-controlled by product, and they treat us as assistants and what's the word I'm looking for? Not product designers, production designers. When we're under engineering, they try to bring us into areas of Agile that have nothing to do with UX work or how UX should do their work. And engineers are often obsessed with speed over quality, so they just want us to work faster. Neither of these necessarily get UX. So ultimately, the right place for UX in an organization is to answer up to a Chief Experience Officer, often called a CXO, and that means you would have a whole branch of your organization where UX is not under the control of any other department or domain. Mira-like says, also, there are so many research methods other than interviews and usability testing that PMs are unfamiliar with. Very true. Jose says, beautiful answer. Thank you again. Hey, well, thanks for your question. Moon says, That's the difference. From a UXR, we have the knowledge to suggest the appropriate method to answer a questions, and PMs don't even know how to formulate the question. This is very true. A lot of times PMs think in terms of a survey and interviews. They're typically not thinking about some of the other methods that are available to them. Mostly, I think they think those methods are just going to take too long. Diary study takes time. Observational research takes time. And of course, they probably even start to notice that it's outside of their field of expertise. I'm so glad she said that. I asked this week, design needs voice. Yeah. And of course, this, like all of our videos, this one will be archived on the YouTube channel. So won't you please subscribe and tell friends, colleagues, your managers and leaders about this channel. We're here to help people out with CX and UX, learning it, working in it, dealing with the conflicts in it, leading it, managing it. We're here for everybody. So please spread the word and help the channel get found. Let's see, what else was I going to tell you? Remember, also, we have a completely free Slack community and Discord community. The Discord community is about a week or so old, so it's still warming up, but we would love to see more people there and more activity there. These are both completely free. There is no membership. You're not put on a mailing list. So you can go to deltacx.com/links and find the links to all the things relating to this show and our channel. Super Hot Fia, I might not have pronounced that correctly, says, what is the role for PM again then? If UX can do discovery and consider business need and solutioning, that's kind of my question too. I don't want to say we don't need PMs. That sounds insulting. I don't want to assume I know everything a PM does. We don't like when they do that to us. I do like the product owner definition. I know those are a bunch of tasks I don't want to do. But when I think about some of the definitions I've been given of product management work, where it's a strategic roadmap of what work we should do in what order, I tend to think that a senior or lead level or higher level of UX researcher or designer should be able to do that. And if business goals and strategies and metrics have been clearly explained to the UX teams, they should be taking those into consideration. We should be taking those things into consideration whether or not there's a product manager or product owner. We have to know what our business is shooting for. We have to know how our stakeholders are being assessed. So we can't ignore business goals and needs. We tend to prefer what the user needs, but we've got to incorporate both. So yeah, I do ask that question myself. I am not totally sure what a product manager does. Now, I just interviewed product growth leaders for my upcoming book that I'm still writing, and they talked about, oh, thank you for joining the channel, Moon. Yeah, everybody, please subscribe here, and you get an emoji explosion for free. I asked the product growth leaders, guys, what's the history of the product management role? And they remembered like the 80s and 90s, and they said, oh, like the product manager would determine pricing. They would sometimes co-determine how something was going to be marketed or brought to the market. They looked a lot at product market fit and market research. And I was like, wow, this work is now all done by other people. I can't think of the last time I heard someone say, and our product manager will figure out our pricing model. Just not done anymore. So I think it's really interesting of kind of the change and evolution of the product management role over the years. And I'm not ready to say we don't need them, but I am ready to say that if they're going to try to turn their job into my job, we will take your job. We will take your job and we will be more qualified to do your job. And I don't think you want that. Shri says, your opinion on this. Tri-track agile with ample UX researchers and designers, UX folks independent at operational decision-making level, PMs empowered from research working toward a product strategy. Sounds like you watched my episode 116. That's exactly what I said in episode 116, which everybody can, of course, find on the YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and write Delta CX 116. It'll pop up. And yeah, that's exactly what I say, and that's exactly what I promote. So yes to that, Shri. Thank you for mentioning that. But again, then we have the question, what do product managers do? I don't totally know. In a world where UX is taking business strategies, goals, and metrics into account, and looking at UX, user and customer goals and needs and tasks, and they're able to prioritize and strategize the product in collaboration with engineering, I'm sorry, but I'm not totally sure what the product manager does, other than the scrum.org product owner role. I get that. All right, so we're gonna wind down soon. I do want to thank all the people for coming today. I think we have about 30 people watching live. Thank you so much. Just a reminder that as of Friday, I'm going to be taking a week and a half off. I will be back on Monday the 15th. I'm going to be mostly off grid for those 10 days. So if you write to me on Slack or Discord, or you need some help, if you comment on a YouTube video, I'm only going to be on the grid here and there, but I'll do my best to respond as I can. I am going to be heads down on trying to finish my book so that I can choose a team of editors. Thanks to people who volunteered to be editors, I'm going to be choosing from among the volunteers. And then we're going to edit the heck out of it, and then we'll look towards publishing it. My hope is end of September, but I don't know yet. So if you need my attention, try to get it before Friday, because Friday lunchtime, this computer's going to be shut down. Super hot for ya. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Says, what's your thoughts on Lean UX, Debbie? Lean UX is neither Lean nor UX. It's a model that most UX professionals completely discarded in 2016 when the book came out. It is a non-viable model that completely disempowers UX, and that's why flavors of Agile love it, because they love that UX gets disempowered by Lean UX. They love that everything is democratized and by committee and things like that. Now, I've got multiple videos about that on the YouTube channel here, so you can just search YouTube for Delta CX Lean UX. You'll get episode, 47 from 2 years ago. You'll probably get episode 115. I would really suggest watching episode 115. It's my newer content on Lean UX. That episode's about a year old. I've got a couple of short videos pooping on Lean UX, but in general, Lean UX is a non-viable model that UX people laughed at and discarded in 2016. The problem was, because we're generally nice people, we didn't go and leave bad reviews on Amazon. We should have. We should have really spoken out and spoken up about Lean UX being a poor model, because since we didn't say anything, engineers and Agile coaches picked it up as, oh, this must be the way to do UX. But it's not. It's definitely not. It's, so yeah, go watch some of those videos. Episode 115, which I would recommend the most, has chaptering, so you can jump right to the section on Lean UX if you'd like. So that's what I would recommend, episode 115. I even made, I think, a short link for it. I think I made deltacx.link/115, so you can jump right to it and share it with others. I hope that helps. And again, that's it for shows until Monday the 15th. Tomorrow will be our live community networking in AirMeet. If you're part of the Slack or Discord community, and again, you can join it for free at deltacx.com/links. We meet on AirMeet once a month just to hang out. You don't have to talk UX. We can talk dogs, karaoke, something you're into. It can be friendly, just to get together and be a community. So that will be tomorrow. And then, of course, no stream Friday. I'm going off the grid. So thanks to everybody for a super show. Thanks for all of the comments and questions that came in. I'm so glad we got some great experienced UX practitioners in on this stream to talk about their experiences and their concerns. Udipta says, more dogs, please. You're already following my dog Instagram. I can't give you more dogs than that as of now. Super hot for you says, helped a lot. I love you for ya. For your I think that's for your passion about this industry. Thank you. I'm on fire about this stuff, especially Lean UX. Lean UX is super garbage, and I call it an aspirology because it aspires to be a methodology, but it is super sad. Shri says, scope of PMs. Get all insights from all teams. Prioritize those insights. Evaluate and analyze risk by matching business and user needs. Never tweak user insights for business decisions. Maybe, because I think that we should all be involved in prioritizing the research insights. I don't want the PMs to do it alone. This is where we need that triad. Product, engineering, UX working together to prioritize, because we tend to look at different stuff. We look at the user's perspective. PMs might look at business goals or strategies or metrics perspective. And engineering's usually looking at feasibility or engineering capabilities in the immediate future. So triad for prioritization. Talk about that in episode 116. So thanks, everybody. I'll miss you. But I'll drop in on Slack and Discord from time to time, and then I'll see you Monday the 15th, hopefully, for more Think Out Loud, more design for the Disney Vacation Club. If you've missed it while I'm gone, please watch lots and lots of old videos over on the YouTube channel. There's over 600 videos for you to choose from. Which should you watch? Type some stuff into YouTube. Delta CX Design Thinking. Delta CX Task Analysis, Delta CX, Unmoderated Research. Just pick some keywords that are on your mind, and I'm sure I'm going to have some videos for you to keep you busy for the week and a half that I'm not here. All right, so I'm going to play us out of here, and everybody be well, stay safe, stay temperature appropriate for whatever part of the world you're in, and I hope to catch you all again soon. Thanks. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are